Welcome back. If you've been here for the Supercross takeouts, you already know what this channel is about. Today, we're going deeper. Motocross, mid-air collisions, riders landing on riders, and moments that had no right to end the way they did. Let's get into it. We start with one of the strangest crashes this sport has ever produced, because it happened after the race was already won. Maggiora 2016. Jason Anderson has just crossed the line for Team USA. The job is done, the race is over, and he's coasting through the finish line section celebrating. Fist in the air, head back, completely and rightfully checked out of race mode. The problem is that behind him, Chihiro Notsuka is still very much in race mode. He's at full pace, committed to the finish line triple, already in the air before he can see what's sitting in his landing zone. There's no steering available to him at that point. No brakes, no adjustment, no option. Just a trajectory he launched on and whatever is at the end of it. Anderson is at the end of it. Notsuka lands squarely on Anderson's head and shoulders. A vertical impact at full race speed on a rider who had absolutely no reason to expect it. Anderson takes a concussion out of a race he had just won. Notsuka had no idea it was coming until it was already over. This crash is the one that proves something every rider in this sport already knows but barely says out loud. You are not safe until you're back in the pits. Not on the cool down lap, not at the finish line, not with your fist in the air. The track doesn't care that your race is finished. Detroit 2022. Cooper Webb is one of the most calculated, precise riders in the history of this sport. He doesn't make many mental errors. This was one of them. Webb and Sexton were both in the same rhythm section, but on completely different sequences. Webb was tripling through, while Sexton doubled in and then went for the triple after. Two riders, same section, same moment, two different rhythms. Webb came up short on his triple, and that's where the gap between their sequences disappeared entirely. Already committed, already past the point where any decision he made mattered. In Supercross, once you leave the ground in the rhythm section, you're following the plan you made 2 seconds ago, not the one you need right now. Sexton landed directly onto Webb's back. The contact was violent enough that Sexton's jersey was shredded by it. Not dirty, not aggressive, not anyone's fault in the traditional sense. Just two riders running different rhythms in the same piece of track, and one of them running out of space at exactly the wrong moment. If you want to understand why Jeffrey Hurlings is built differently to almost every other rider who has ever raced a motorcycle, this is the clip you show people. Aus 2021. Hurlings jumped short on the jump. Monticelli jumped long on the same jump. In the air with no ability to adjust, those two trajectories had only one place to meet. Monticelli's front wheel connects with Hurlings directly between the shoulder blades. Look at the compression in that footage. The force involved in that contact is enough to snap a frame. It's not a glancing blow, it's a direct hit on a human spine at race speed. Hurling stayed on the bike. Not only did he stay on the bike, he finished the moto. Not limped home, not managed the last few laps in survival mode. He raced it and he won. It was later confirmed he had fractured his shoulder blade in the impact. He won a Grand Prix with a fractured shoulder blade because apparently Jeffrey Hurlings decided that pain was something that happened to other people. There's tough in this sport, and then there's whatever category Hurlings occupies above that. Justin Barcia didn't earn the name Bam Bam by accident. 2024 St. Louis Supercross, and the rider on the receiving end was Jet Lawrence, the most talented young rider in the sport and the man with a championship he was carefully trying to protect. Lawrence was playing the long game that night, managing risks, taking the points, doing exactly what a championship leader should do. Barcia saw a gap in a bowl turn that was not really a gap and sent it anyway. That is, honestly, the most Barcia sentence ever written. He committed to the inside with the kind of aggression that doesn't leave room for the other rider to exist in that corner anymore. The contact was a clean T-bone. No attempt to negotiate the corner, no arc, no exit plan. Just Barcia using Lawrence as a breaking point and the sport exploding afterwards trying to figure out what to do about it. Was it a racing move or was it over the line? The industry split straight down the middle and has not fully agreed since. Drop your verdict in the comment because that debate is still very much alive. While we're talking about Jet Lawrence having a bad time, New Jersey 2023 deserves its own conversation. Because this one was not about aggression or a gap that didn't exist. This one was just the rain deciding to get involved. It was the final lap, final corner, and the championship was very much on the line. Hampshire went for the move on Lawrence, but before he even reached him, he tucked the front end into the deep, muddy rut. The crash was already happening before any contact was made. He slid directly into Lawrence, and that was the race done right there, in the last corner on the last lap. The mud took away his options before he even had a chance to choose one. What makes this clip what it is isn't really the crash, it's what comes after it. Jet Lawrence, buried in the mud, shaking his head with the specific frustration of a man who is fighting for a championship and just had it taken away at the final corner of the lap. Jet Lawrence, buried in the mud, shaking his head with the specific frustration of a man who is fighting for a championship and just had it taken away in the final corner of the final lap. When you're in a title fight, every position matters, every point counts, and sometimes the race doesn't care about any of that. Red Bud 2018, Plessinger and Faulkner battling for the lead. And what makes this crash worth studying is not that it happened, but how it happened. Most takeouts in this sport are side-by-side collisions, one rider running into the hip of another. This one was different. Plessinger committed so hard to the inside line that he caught Faulkner with his front wheel at a sharp angle, which sent Faulkner's bike straight up the embankment rather than pushing him sideways. It's a geometry problem that resolved itself in the most violent way possible. Faulkner was left on the ground holding his knee, his bike twisted up the bank. Plessinger kept the momentum and the position, but the cost of that move was Faulkner's season. And in this sport, that's never a small thing, regardless of how the pass was intended. We close with a crash that reminds you how quickly a normal race lap becomes something else entirely, and how nobody in this sport is immune to being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not even the greatest riders to ever do it. Ryan Dungey and James Stewart at Anaheim in 2016. Two of the most decorated riders in the history of this sport sharing the same piece of track. Dungey's rear end kicks out mid-corner and collects Stewart with no warning and no time to react. One moment they're racing, the next Stewart is on the ground and the red flag is out. What makes this one hit differently is who is involved. James Stewart at his peak was untouchable, the most naturally gifted rider the sport has ever seen. And it didn't matter. The rear end doesn't care about your resume. It kicks out, it catches whoever's next to you, and the race stops. No aggression, no bad decision, just a fraction of a second where the dirt gave way and a legend went down because of it. These are the crashes that stay with you, not because of what was done wrong, but because of how little it took for everything to go wrong. One moment of lost traction, one piece of shared airspace, one corner where two lines met that were never supposed to. The track doesn't discriminate. It just collects whoever ends up in the wrong place. Every single rider in this video lined up knowing this was possible, knowing that the person behind them might not see them, or the person in front might not clear the jump, or the mud might wash the front end exactly at the wrong moment. They lined up anyway. That's what this sport asks of them, and that's what they give it every single weekend. Which crash in this video do you think was the most avoidable? Drop it in the comments below. Subscribe so you are there for the next one, because this sport never runs out of moments that make you hold your breath.